the fabric of civilization is everything that we do in industrial control system and our power grid or wastewater management or water treatments or whatever, right? You will learn so much about that tech, and then you're going to realize a lot of it, 90% of it's the same stuff you see in IT, right? It's not that different, but the implications are that much more severe if we don't have access to it and we're not able to protect it.
I think that, the movies depict like end of the world type stuff. The hackers are going to get into the power system or into some system, and it's going to, cost millions of lives.
Yeah.
Is that a real threat? Hey everyone, it's David Bombal coming to you from Cisco Live with Joe. Joe, great to meet you.
Great to meet you.
So Joe, just before we get into the interview, you work for Cisco Talos, is that right?
Correct. I am a senior security IoT strategist and threat researcher for Cisco Talos. We're a extremely large threat intelligence research organization here inside of Cisco. And I focus specifically on critical infrastructure, Internet of Things, sort of your non-standardized, but still very much computers and the securities that kind of vulnerabilities that go with them, yeah.
But you come from a cybersecurity background
Absolutely.
rather than like a utilities background, right?
Absolutely. I did some stuff with DoD. I was actually an operations guy, but if you're an IT person, you are a security person, whether you like it or not. And then I just sort of organically shifted into cybersecurity and ICS stuff.
Really excited about this topic. A lot of people are interested in it. ICS, perhaps you can tell us what ICS is. And I believe it's very fragile. A lot of issues, perhaps with encryption, security, stuff like that. And under attack, it seems. Yeah.
So ICS is industrial control systems. They are so ubiquitous in our lives, you wouldn't even know it. They are the things that make water clean, that let the lights come on in a place like this, that make pharmaceuticals or let aviation work, or maritime systems guide ships.
Yep.
They're just not something you would think about that's not your phone or mobile device or your PC that you're playing games on, or whatever that happens to be. We know it exists because it's invisible and it extends civilization to us. But it's such a ubiquitous thing because they're all computers too.
You said offline it was developed in a different era, right?
If we were to take something like GPS, our global positioning system, for us old people, we remember life before GPS telling us where we could go. Then we had MapQuest where I could print out directions and then,
showing you age.
While I'm on the motorway going, turn left here. And you're like, and now we have, Apple Maps, Google Maps, Waze, things to guide us, right? So GPS is a great example. We rely on it so much for everything, especially in the power grid space. And it's built on 1960s technology from satellites.
Yeah, I mean, it seems worse because, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no encryption generally on ICS systems. Is that right?
Yes. Very, very broadly, though, because there's a wide plethora of systems and integrations that exist across numerous verticals. However, the standardized protocols that are used are not encrypted. They were invented in an era where they didn't need to be. And there are some bolt-on security mechanisms from vendors that can do that. By and large, I don't think the industry has largely adopted those security controls for one reason or another. If it's broke, don't fix it, I suppose. Probably be the better way to say it, yeah.
And I mean, people make the mistake, well, perhaps a mistake. They put this on the internet. You go in Shodan and you just do a search. You can just see a whole bunch of ICS systems from around the world.
Yeah, one of my favorite hobbies is going on Shodan and seeing what I can find. On any given day, I found a substation near Buckingham Palace. I found waste treatment plants in Australia. I find a lot of farms. I don't know why, but or a lot of cooling and heating systems in various buildings. If you know what to look for, and it changes so much that it's become kind of a fun little hobby for me, I guess. But it's a strong illustrator that people are opening themselves to risk with systems, IoT or industrial IoT or ICS, and they don't know they're doing it for the most part. Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of them don't have authentication, right? Or just using default systems on Shodan.
You can go look up their default credentials on most vendor websites. Your more mature users and vendors are going to enforce some kind of security. But there's a lot of old systems there too. These industrial control systems that we use so much, they're meant to last a long time.
Yeah.
And because they're not cheap. 10, 15, even 20 years. And 15 years ago, how was cybersecurity as it related to industrial control systems? Probably not good if anyone else this doesn't seem like it'd be great. And that's kind of the long tail, if you will. Certainly what you can find on Shodan.
Now, not just Shodan, that's not just a problem like hackers, but there's nation states also attacking systems. It seems like these systems are under a lot of attack these days. And I think you've got some great stories about that.
If you take the situation like the conflict in Ukraine, but global conflict in general, everyone's taking notes.
Yep.
All right. So, you've had some significant cyber attacks out of Ukraine, like the Black Energy attacks, Indestroyer, NotPetya, watershed moments in cybersecurity history, right? And then you have other geopolitical entities looking at that and saying to themselves, what's going right for me as an attacker? What's going right for them as a defender? Can we do that for some foreign policy reason down the road as well? As above, so below. And that's probably the primary concern I think that I have, is that unfortunately it's very difficult to separate, nation state based attacks without the foreign policy intent of said nation to impose their will upon another nation. And it is very concerning.
You've got a really good example with GPS, I believe. Could you talk us through that story?
I had the absolute privilege to help the Ukrainian power transmission grid operator, the bulk power, the big lines you see, help them with GPS resiliency because of the conflict. They and their adversary are using like a lot of electronic warfare.
Jamming, right?
Jamming and spoofing and things like that to help protect their power grids. Because they want to defeat missiles and drones and things like that. Unintended consequence of that is it's somewhat fratricidal. It damages civilian infrastructure as well that relies on GPS, one of which is the power grid, believe it or not where you are, but when you are. It's not widely known, but in orbit, these GPS satellites have atomic clocks in them.
Oh, wow.
And they broadcast twice a minute, depending where you are in the world, the exact time down to nanoseconds. And, for a small hockey puck sized receiver, you can, download that signal and you would have incredibly accurate time. And in power grids, it's incredibly important to do that all over your country, especially in the United States. This is a global standard, not just in Europe. By having this synchronized time, I'm able to understand the health of my electric grid. And I can make adjustments as needed by having timestamps, atomic timestamps on that data. Well, when you lose GPS, you lose those timestamps. That's a problem because now all of a sudden your power dispatchers kind of flying blind. They don't know if a weather system has taken down something, if a missile unfortunately has hit something. They just don't know. And we at Cisco were able to basically fix the problem with some of our technology.
You got to tell us the story and I'll put a link below for anyone who wants to read more about it. But you used IoT devices and rugged switches. Could you tell us a bit more?
We did a total hack job.
I love it.
We put smart people in a room, a virtual room, and we said, here is the problem. The Ukrainians are having struggles keeping their electric grid operating, not because of kinetic conflict, that's obvious, but because of, the protective measures that are being used to protect them as well. We said, what if we took one of our commodity industrialized switches? So it's a normal computer switch, but it's temperature resistant, moisture resistant. It's meant to go in like really inhospitable places. Electric substations, for example. Right. What if we took the internal clock on that switch, because everything has a clock inside of it, and what if we were able to basically make the power transmission system that's used in Ukraine, rather than look at the satellite, look at our switch when the satellite goes away, and it will. The power system, I didn't tell you this. This is an unfortunate consequence. ICS systems typically aren't designed for conflict zones.
I would imagine so.
They're not really architected for that. And in the particular case of Ukraine, their systems just didn't know what to do without GPS.
Interesting.
So they would kind of go into a little bit of a panic and just shut down until the satellites came back and they could detect them. And that was no bueno, as they say. So I said, what if we put a clock in there, a really good one, mind you, and you kind of make it think we're the satellite. And we did that. And we actually were able to make some clock recovery enhanced algorithmic firmware updates inside of an IE5000, which is one of our industrialized switches. And when the satellite goes away, our switch steps in seamlessly and says, don't panic, here is the time. And we have to do it in microseconds. That's how good our clock is. And we'll hold that time over for 2 to 4 hours, however long it takes. The unfortunate reality is that it can happen 4 or 5 times a day in Ukraine because of the conflict. A bit humbling there, but the Ukrainians tell us it works like a charm. They call them the magic switches.
That's amazing.
So it's nice to know that we're helping keep the lights on for that country.
I mean, it's amazing because you think about actual missile strikes, but it's not all the jamming that's causing the problems.
It's always more complex than anyone thinks. That's the truth of it, right? If I had never heard about it, I would have never even known that it was an issue. I'm a cybersecurity guy, not an electronic warfare radio expert, but we had to get smart really fast. So,
Joe, I want to bring it back to the US. You've got years and years in cybersecurity. From what I'm reading in the news, there are attacks against the US as well, against ICS systems. So what's your advice? Is the sky falling? Do we have to worry?
The sky is falling! The sky is falling! Are you crazy?
Give us the real world expert opinion about, what should people be doing? How can we better secure our systems and so forth?
Yeah. I like to say, worry about everything, panic about nothing.
Yep.
We have to address the reality that we live in a world, a fractious conflict of a world right now where nations have conflicting geopolitical interests, whether it's in Asia Pacific or in Europe or wherever it happens to be, right? The good news is that there's so many super smart cybersecurity professionals, industrial control system engineers who architect these systems to be incredibly resilient in the United States. If a hurricane hits the southeast of the United States, our engineers have built a reliable, rugged grid that can be repaired easy enough to keep the lights on for people, or if it's a hot day, or if a blizzard comes through in the northeast or nor'easter, no hacker has been able to do the damage that Mother Nature has done to critical infrastructure, right?
I think you said it's like snakes and rodents cause more damage than hacks, right?
Absolutely. Squirrels are the number one enemy of every power grid, right? The bad news is that our adversaries are just aware of the fragility of certain things, and they're smart and they're well-funded, they're motivated, and they have strong technical acumen. And should a reason arise, which would be a very bad moment in I think global history, we have to understand that causing disruption, causing any kind of inconvenience to water, power, wastewater treatment, maritime shipping, logistics, manufacturing, can have ripple effects that affect other elements of our life here in the United States, and maybe causes enough of a hindrance to prevent the response we want to do as a nation. That is the eternal cat and mouse game that we're playing right now, I think, in the United States.
I think that, the movies depict like end of the world type stuff.
Yeah.
The hackers are going to get into the power system or into some system, and it's going to, cost millions of lives.
Yeah.
Is that a real threat?
No, I don't believe so. I think keep in mind this, electrical grids are designed to be very, very resilient.
Yeah.
But you do have to think about what's Pittsburgh versus a small town of 25,000 in the middle of Kansas, right? Who is the more well-defended? Who's the more well-protected? It would take, at that point, it's an active war, right? I mean, there's no way. Things have gone south very heavily if that's going to be the case.
Yep.
I think it's a bit of Hollywood glam up, if you will. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I have tremendous amount of faith in the expertise and the technology that we've done because we have chewed this problem to the bone. Yeah, I kind of feel like that's my vibe.
Can't be complacent, right?
Oh yeah, don't be complacent. I'll give you an example.
Yep.
Let's say that small town loses power because of a cyber attack, right? Nation state based.
Yeah.
Somebody goes into medical distress, and maybe they have an oxygen system and they're not getting power to it.
Yeah.
And it causes them to have a pulmonary issue and they pass away, or something bad happens. COVID taught us a lot about critical care with lack of staff, supplies, or space.
Yeah.
Well, then now we have maybe actual fatalities attributed to an attack on a grid because so much life-saving care is attached to us having power when we need it, right? It's really tough, and it gets into a gray area that's very difficult for us to predict and to project to because we just don't know. And frankly, I hope we live in a world where we never have to know. But that's getting into the real deep unknown, in my opinion.
The movies are exaggerating it, but there is a risk, right?
There absolutely is a risk. I think it's table stakes. Cyber conflict is really weird. It is a step below sending, missiles and planes and tanks at people, where the reciprocity may not be armed conflict. It may be a counter cyber attack, if you know what I mean, right? It is a cold, hot war. I mean, it operates in this gray area where, we don't have to put someone in harm's way per se, but we are able to project our desires to an opponent. And maybe that's our version of an ICS attack, or, you had I hate to say the phrase Stuxnet, like in Iran, where that was basically what happened there.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I mean, Stuxnet is a famous example that a lot of people talk about.
Yep.
I mean, it sounds like it's happening all over where governments are doing stuff like this. I'm really glad to hear that it's your opinion is it's not like the sky's going to fall tomorrow.
It's not going to fall tomorrow. Knock on wood. Don't want to jinx myself, but I've traveled the world. I've talked to so many people that are, hardworking engineers, cybersecurity professionals, grid practitioners like myself. they're bright, they're smart, they care about their communities, and they're working very hard to keep us all safe and enjoying civilization. Power comes on, water is drinkable. We're in Las Vegas, so the air conditioning's working, and I have a lot of faith in them, and they know what the stakes are. Always be vigilant, always be thinking ahead of the adversary, think like a bad guy every day.
So let's talk about careers.
Okay.
How many years have you been doing this?
Oh, gosh. Well, I'm 45 this Friday.
Congrats.
Thank you very much. I've been doing this since I was 20.
I find to my astonishment that a quarter of a century has passed.
Long time.
Long time, yeah.
So talk to your younger self, or talk to people who are interested in this. Is cybersecurity a good field? Is ICS a good sort of niche or area in cybersecurity to get into?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was not prepared for that one. If I were to talk to my younger self, first, everyone I know that's done industrial control system security, in my opinion, it's not linear. It's kind of either you find it or it finds you.
Yeah.
It's just one of those weird moments. I was working for the DoD, and I was doing just operations, IT stuff, right? Okay. And my local utility wouldn't take no for an answer for an interview, and I went and interviewed with them, and they offered me this job as a ICS IT/OT architect, and that was my first introduction to OT. Yep. I didn't start off in it though, right? A very non-linear kind of way that I got into it, which then led me to Cisco and to work at Talos.
Yeah.
If I were to talk to my younger self and give some advice, the advice I would give actually wouldn't be that technical.
Okay.
It would be have a good attitude.
Okay.
Be easy to work with.
Yeah.
And be hungry.
I like that. Hungry.
Be a forever student, right? When my team and I helped Ukraine, I didn't know anything about electronic warfare. I didn't know anything about missiles and drones other than that they were a thing, right? Well, we had to go 8 layers deep to make sure that we were giving them a solution that would help them keep the lights on. And that just doesn't happen by being casual about this. Like, you got to be a hyper nerd. You have to understand it and chew it to the bone. Those are the, I hate to say like neurodivergent-esque, but these passionate, dedicated people that want to see us be safe and have, the civilization and take care of each other. It's ultimately what we do. We lead with a heart. So if I were to talk to my younger self, develop the soft skills, keep advancing your technical skills and your strong technical foundation, right? You can't be an MCSE or a CCIE if you don't understand how DNS works or how TCP/IP works, or God help us, the OSI model or whatever, right? Now I'm going way back, right? But be humble, have a good attitude, be easy to work with, be hungry. And it doesn't really matter what you're doing for a career. If you could just do those things, you will be always successful, in my opinion. And more so in a field like ICS security, where if you come with an open mind and you want to be taught, there might be this crusty old lineman or this director of OT operations that doesn't know anything about those cybersecurity guys. But, just say, I'm here as a student and I'd love to learn more about this, and then I can figure out how to help you keep you secure. Also, pro tip, I bribed my way in with donuts. So I was the cybersecurity guy. They're like, oh gosh, he's going to make my life miserable. But I'm like, but I've got donuts. And I think after like the 10th time I did it, they were like, you're in the tribe. Stop bringing donuts. We're getting fat. You're one of us now. We'll tell you whatever you want to know.
But it's a good career path, right?
Yes, it's an excellent career path. You will learn so much about what lets us enjoy our lives. The hard work, the fabric of civilization is everything that we do in industrial control system and our power grid or wastewater management or water treatments or whatever, right? Like that, you will learn so much about that tech, and then you're going to realize a lot of it, 90% of it's the same stuff you see in IT, right? It's not that different, but the implications are that much more severe if we don't have access to it and we're not able to protect it.
But I have to ask the question, are there jobs?
Yes, absolutely. There are jobs that are either adjacent to operational technology, which is, industrialized IT, if you will. And there are jobs directly in that space. I've had people who are power engineers who get into it. I've had people who are cybersecurity engineers, and they just took a really cool course at college, and they got an internship with their local utility. A lot of it can also be IoT-based, to ruggedized systems, wireless modems and routers. They need application security and development, stuff like that. And then sometimes you just get very lucky, and you can go work for a utility. If they see a cybersecurity professional that they want to grow and invest in, and they go, look, we're going to expose you to some weird stuff. That's what happened to me. They took a leap of faith on me. And so I'm learning about smart grids. I'm learning about oil and gas. I'm learning about all these interesting things. And by having a good attitude, being easy to work with, and being hungry and kind, I was able to really proceed down that path. Because there's so many places that need cybersecurity professionals. Oil and gas, any kind of petrol business. Utilities are kind of a natural given. Municipalities that do their own water and power, unis are super underserved and need really smart people. Wastewater is different from water, right? So we have to treat sewage. We have to give you clean drinking water. Maritime, believe it or not, is big. So cybersecurity on what makes our economy work, which is shipping.
Yep.
Aviation security is falls under that. Almost every pharmaceutical manufacturing in general, which could be everything from the medication you take to getting spare parts for your tractor if you're a farmer, right? Because understanding the fragility and the attacks on that system is so important. I'll give you a great example.
Yep.
I was talking to a major vehicle manufacturer. Manufacturing obviously is operational technology and ICS, right? They make cars.
Yeah.
And I said, we're having a great meeting. I'm cutting jokes with them and they're cutting jokes with me. The kind of meeting you want to have a good time with. And it's going great. And I said, hey, I don't get to talk to vehicle manufacturers as often as I like. And indulge me for a moment as a cybersecurity professional. What happens if you can't make your number one selling pickup truck for just one day?
Yep.
Just one day. And I erased every smile in the room. Instantly, I yanked the oxygen out of that room. And everyone looked at me and very soberly said, we are going to have a very bad day.
Yep.
That could be a safety instrumented system that fails and causes, God forbid, a loss of life or an injury, or to just the raw amount of money that business is going to hemorrhage because of the impact to their operational technology and ICS systems that weren't able to function as resiliently as they wanted to. And that means you need cybersecurity professionals, both technical and not technical, to step in, evaluate risk, help suggest controls, and work with plants and work with anyone in the OT space as a friend, bring donuts, and you will have wonderful success. But they need those people. They really, really do. They're looking for those people.
Are you saying that there's a lot of companies looking for talent?
Absolutely. Take your core IT security fundamentals, Active Directory, segmentation, zero trust, all those things. And then you're going to sprinkle in, well, how does this business operate? How does this manufacturing organization work?
Yep.
What special technologies are they trying to do? Are they a utility? Are they water? Or whatever the case may be. They're hungry for people like that who can bring in something new to that business and help either mitigate it through technical risk or work with executives to help them understand the risk, because there could be regulatory concerns behind it. But it's a diverse field of cybersecurity professionals that are needed in the space, and they're absolutely hungry for that. So they need talent and interest, and it could just be getting your foot in the door. Unfortunately, I hate to say that. It's not the easiest thing in the world because it's a big world and a big industry that we have, but 100% it is, and especially with the retiring workforce,
Yep.
There is an absolute demand. I guarantee it.
Joe, we're out of time. We have to wrap up. But before we do, can people reach you on social media? Can they reach you on Twitter, perhaps, or X as it's called these days?
I'm on the Twitters. I'm on the LinkedIn. I'm all over the socials. I'm easy to find. And I guess we can just give you the link and you can put it on your post. Is that cool?
Yeah, that's fine. I'll put the links below. So reach out to Joe if you're interested in ICS. And they can also ask you perhaps for some career advice.
Absolutely. Anything I can do to help others, I'm always in, man.
Joe, thanks so much.
Thank you, brother.
Really appreciate it.
Appreciate you.